Right, so hello, and welcome to the MSB podcast. My name's Tom O'Reilly and I'll be your host for this podcast series. This series sees me sit down with the partners of the firm and just get to know them a bit better, get an insight into their career journey. So joining me today, I've got Nicola Harris, partner and solicitor who specialises in family law, and Darren Barwick, partner and solicitor who specialises in property. Hello to you both. Are you okay? Thank you for joining me.
Oh, hi, Tom. Thanks
Good.
for inviting us. I think this was a brilliant idea and looking forward to it.
Excellent. You're more than welcome. So my first question is for both of you. If you can just give us a background to your career journey, why did you become lawyers in the first place? Don't know who wants to go first.
I don't mind, but it's ladies
Go on, you go
first. So would you
first.
like me to go
You
first?
go first.
I suppose my career journey is quite unusual in that I didn't qualify until I was 40. And I did a number of things beforehand. I worked in insurance. I was a civil servant. I had a stint in Japan teaching English as a foreign language, so quite varied, really. And then eventually sort of came to law sort of later in my life and didn't qualify till I was 40. So I think the reason I came to it, I think I liked having a good argument. It's probably the most honest thing to say. And I don't know why I didn't end up in litigation. I think it's probably got something to do with studying litigation on the LPC and having all those white book rules. And I thought it's not quite as interesting as I thought. So I kind of did everything a bit later in my life. I took A-levels part-time. I did my degree part-time. Did my LPC part-time. So I know certainly with university debt these days, there's a lot of our younger employees are looking to do that type of route, aren't they? Sort of work while they study. And I think it's a really good idea, but it's, I remember it from when I did it. It is a hard slog, but, frankly, I think after all those years, I think the day I finally qualified, you feel really good. It's something really quite special.
Yeah.
And then, gone through the journey with MSB to partnership.
Yeah, no, excellent. And for you, Nikki?
Mine was much more traditional in that I went to school, did GCSEs, did A-levels, and the school that I attended, it was the expectation that you would go on to a red brick university and complete an academic degree. When I was looking at what I could do, there were teachers who said, no, law's not for you. I sat down with a career advisor and they'd suggested either law or journalism based on questionnaires that I carried out with them. And journalism piqued my interest. And then I sort of waned with that interest. And as it came nearer to deciding what I would go on to university to study, law became, the favoured degree. I thought even if I didn't go into law, it was a good academic degree to obtain that may allow me any number of career routes after graduation. I went to University of Liverpool. I've never left Liverpool really other than to travel. I've not worked outside of the city and I just completed my degree at Liverpool. University of Liverpool, I went on to the College of Law in Chester, which is sadly going to be closing soon. Really fond memories of the College of Law in Christleton in Chester. And then was fortunate enough to not walk into a training contract. I wasn't that lucky. I did some legal work for a firm in Wilmslow. And I remember just about covering my fuel costs to get to that job. And I did that for about 6 months and just kept writing to different firms. This was pre-email days. And I got a response from Joe Dalton. And it said, if you haven't secured a training contract by September, get back in touch with us. And I hadn't. So I got back in touch in the September, was offered an interview at MSB and subsequently was taken on as a trainee there and I've remained there to date. So my journey into law was a lot more traditional, although I did have a period of time after my degree whereby I was almost a recruitment consultant, but missed my first day, and I think that was fate. It was totally accidental.
Yeah.
I missed my first day, and right, that's it. I'm going to go and do the LPC. I just think it was a sliding doors moment, and it helped me to then pursue that. And I think you know your own strengths, and I think I would have really struggled to do it outside of the academic route and straight from school. I'm very much, if something gets set, I have to get it done. there and then. I think it would have been a lot more difficult for me personally to do the career route a bit later like Darren did. But there are different things that work for different people. And that's the beauty of law. There are loads of different avenues into it.
Yeah.
It's no longer the career that it used to be, that it was, for the white middle classes. There are a number of routes into law, and everybody can take advantage of those routes to achieve their goal.
Yeah. Well, and I've worked alongside you, Nikki, in the family department, and I've seen that, the great work you do. So it would have been a loss, I think, to the law industry if you had stayed with
recruitment. Isn't it?
That's very kind.
Stop
Thank you.
No, that's very
But
kind.
no, the question I've got is, what do you find the most rewarding part of your practice and the most difficult at times?
With family law, I think that career path and that area of law chose me rather than me choosing it. I remember doing my training contract thinking, I just have got no idea what I now want to do. And then I did my seat in family law and I just was good at it. I got good feedback from clients. I enjoyed the work. I enjoyed the variety of the work. And it felt like real law, if that makes sense. You would go to a courtroom. I would see judges face to face. It very much felt like I had imagined a career in law would be. So that was sort of how I went into family law. I do feel like that area of law picked me. I just had a knack for dealing with the clients. I think it helped that I was local. I think it helped that I didn't sound like other lawyers, that I could talk to them in plain English, which is what they needed when they were going through times of crisis. So it can be a difficult area of law, and people often ask, how do you do it? How do you not take it home when you're dealing with like really serious issues of neglect or injuries to a child or even death of a child? I don't think you'd be human if it didn't affect you. But you just learn, I think, as your career develops, to be able to have empathy, but be able to leave it at your office door. And there are cases that you get that you live and breathe them. And I think that's what makes you a good lawyer. You are invested in your client, you're invested in their outcome. As a lawyer, you forge a reputation for yourself and you want good results for your client. So you do get those cases where you have sleepless nights or you wake up thinking, have I done that? Could I have done this? I'll do that first thing in the morning. I have notes on my phone. If something comes to me late at night, I'll note it and I'll email it to myself so I don't forget. And I think that's what makes you a good lawyer, and it's what makes clients come back to you. They can see that you're invested in them. So it's a balance. You can't obviously carry the weight of their burden with you all times. You've got to be able to switch off, but you've got to be attuned to their needs and respond to them appropriately. And I think the most rewarding thing about the job is seeing a client's growth, because the area of family law that I do in particular, because family in itself, there's a number of different areas that you can specialise in, even in the one area of law of family law and matrimonial. I do a lot of Children Act work, whether that be private Children Act, whether that be public law and care proceedings. And when it's someone's child, there's so much riding on that. And you see so much growth for clients because they often come to you with really complex issues or difficulties, whether it be mental health, whether it's drug or alcohol misuse, whether it's just a breakdown of the relationship from domestic violence. Your family clients are generally always at a point of crises in their life when they approach you initially. And to see a client's growth for me is the most rewarding thing, even if at the end of your case you don't get the absolute best outcome that you wanted to achieve because of environmental factors and a client not being able to overcome certain difficulties. If you can see that client's growth, the freedom that they obtain from addressing a drug issue or addressing a domestically violent relationship and breaking away from that, that to me is what makes the job worthwhile. And I say it all the time, when somebody says thank you, it literally means
a lot,
so
doesn't
much.
it?
Yeah.
Goes a long way.
Yeah.
And for you, Darren, I know that starting...
I'm not sure how to follow that, really.
Well, I mean, starting a career, in law at such a, a late stage is already, can you imagine, a very difficult process. So can you shed some light on why you chose that decision, to pursue a career in law after those so many years?
Yeah, certainly. I think it's probably a mixture of not really understanding what I wanted to do when I was younger, not really understanding what I was good at, and trying a few different things, and then realizing after a while that it wasn't really for me. And I wanted a challenge, and I wanted something that intellectually challenged me, which maybe sounds a little pompous, but it was something that I was looking for, something that was going to engage me. And it is something that I thought about for a long time. I never quite got round to. And then I just sort of came to a point in my life where I thought, well, I don't really feel like I'm going anywhere in the career that I'm in, and I just want to change things completely. And I'm going to study a law degree. And I was a civil servant at the time. And, 4 years of night school doing a law degree part-time. And I think it shows your commitment to actually doing it as well as to actually being a lawyer. A lot of people, I mean, you went straight from university. A lot of people might do that and sort of find themselves in a law firm and think, what am I doing here? Is this for me? Whereas for me, it was the other way around. I tried quite a few things first, and I thought I need something more challenging in my life. And that's when I started studying for my law degree. I had a little break when I went off to Japan. I was only supposed to go there to teach English for a year. I ended up there for 4 years, and caught the 2002 World Cup where it was at the quarterfinal where England played Brazil and got knocked out of the quarterfinal. What was it, an interesting little departure, but I came back from Japan and did my LPC part-time. And from that point on, I was very committed to qualification. And like Nikki, I wrote hundreds of letters asking for training contracts. And in those days, it was letters,
and it was quite literally hundreds.
Yeah, not emails, personally dropping them off at solicitors around the city centre, all over Liverpool, Manchester. Kind of decided that's where I wanted to stay. And I think I got one interview with DWF and failed it. But I was working as
their loss was MSB's game.
That was probably fate as well. It was meant to be.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, isn't it? I was working as a paralegal in a different law firm at the time, Brabner's, and I think it's something. When you're actually working there, you get an opportunity to prove yourself, don't you? You get an opportunity to try out the work and see if it's right for you. And you also get an opportunity to prove yourself. So people go, well, do you know what? That guy's working really hard. He seems to know what he's doing. Maybe we should give him a training contract. And I think that's a good way to do it.
Yeah.
Obviously there's the traditional way as well, where you've got to write hundreds of letters.
I think it's very rare that people, even when I got my training contract with MSB, it was really rare that people would just get a training contract. Most firms, even back then, were recruiting paralegals and then offering training contracts. And I think the one thing that helped me get the training contract with MSB was that I was aware of the case management software that they'd just taken on, because I'd used that in the previous firm.
Happy days.
I'd paralegal there, but they were not the type of firm that I wanted a training contract at. It's funny. There's so many routes into it. That's the beauty of law.
And it's, for me, it was never too late to go into it.
Yeah.
If you've got a passion and desire and that's really what you want to do with your life, it's never too late, I don't think.
No, definitely
not. Well, no, that's great advice to those people, that want to perhaps change their career.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that was going to lead me on to my next question: is what advice have you got for legal people that want a career in the legal profession, trainee solicitors? Any words of wisdom?
Yeah. Do you want to go first?
I would just say stick at it, because the work that you do as a trainee can be very different from the work that you do when you're qualified. It can be a lot harder as a trainee. You're finding your feet. Trainees are generally younger. You're not always sure of what you want to do with your life at that age. If you're in an area of law at the moment, or a seat in a training contract, and you're feeling a bit disillusioned, it's not really your thing. I was like that. I really didn't enjoy property, for example. I found the contractual side of things just really didn't pique my interest at all.
People can find it dry, can't
there's just
they?
different things for different people, and there's so many areas of law. Just keep at it, just keep at it.
No, excellent. That seems to be a common theme from all the partners, is just to stick at it. You know, it will pay off in the long run.
Absolutely.
So in terms of lockdown, I don't know how you've coped working through lockdown, what difficulties you've faced, what you're most looking forward to now coming out of lockdown.
Yeah, pints in
Human
a pub.
beings.
I second that, yeah.
Not looking at people through a
Yeah.
screen anymore.
Yeah, no, brilliant. So Nikki, a question that our staff came up with that they wanted me to ask you is that you're the mother to two young boys, and you're a very successful lawyer and partner of a very successful law firm. So how do you manage that work-life balance?
It's a really good question, and the answer's probably not that straightforward. When I had the children, we made a conscious decision to have our family close together so that we could focus on them and I could return to work. It was never a will or a want that I would ever want to come out of the workplace. So it was with discussion with family, research and childcare, making every effort to enable me to get back into the workplace. And MSB were really good with that as well. I was able to work reduced hours, part-time, still maintain my own practice, still achieve good results for clients and achieve good fees for the firm. So I felt able to do it, having had my first, that I could do it after the second. There was a vast difference between having one to then having two children. It was just logistical. I needed to know where my children were going to be when they weren't with me, because they weren't of school age when I returned back to work. And there's an old saying that it takes a village to raise a child. And I firmly believe that it does. I am not Wonder Woman. I couldn't do what I do without a significant amount of support from my husband and our families. We live close to our families. We're really fortunate and we rely on them heavily for support. And so I think the best advice I could give people is invest in your village, because you're going to need it. You cannot do it all on your own. We were really lucky. We had an amazing childminder. Then the children started school. We were able to use family after school clubs. And then I'm fortunate that I will work, 8:30 till 5 every day and fit in as much into that time as I can. And then I close the computer off for the day. I leave the office and I'm able to focus on home life for the evening, with obviously a bit of law in the background and worries about certain things in the background. But I think that's natural. But that would be my advice to anybody. It takes a village to raise a child. So invest wisely in your village. Take as much support as you can.
Yeah, very wise words. And for you, Darren, any advice to get that work-life balance?
It can be difficult. Certainly as you progress up the ladder, you start attracting your own clients. They become really important to you. Their businesses and their work become really important to you. And it can be hard to switch off. And I think you have to be quite disciplined, because you have to have downtime. You have to be able to go away on holiday and not look at your emails and think, right, I'm away for a week now. I just need to relax, recharge my batteries. And then when I go back to work, I will be all the better for it. And it's the same during your working week. I mean, sometimes you have a lot of work on and you just have to put long hours in, and sometimes you have to work weekends, and that's the nature. Certainly some types of areas of law, probably particularly mine. But I think it's important when you do have that downtime is to actually take it and take time away from the office and take time away from your computer. Make an effort to go. There's times when I just work through lunch hours all the time, just as a constant of the way I worked. And I've sort of learned that, you know what, I need to go out and have 20 minutes walking around, grabbing a sandwich, being out in the fresh air, in the sunshine, to kind of recharge my batteries and let go of what I'm dealing with. And I think if you take that approach, you will have a fresher perspective on the issues that you do have, that you're working on in your current work. So I think it's important to take that time out, certainly.
Yeah, no, excellent. And so to end, sorry to put you on the spot, but if you've got, can you share if there's a particular lawyer, real or fictional, or anything that's inspired you to become a lawyer that you'd be willing to share with us?
Yeah, the me answer would be Sex and the City. It was Miranda Hobbs. She was just the best thing ever. She bought an apartment in New York City at 35, something like that. So that was sort of my first fictional look at, oh wow, a legal life could be amazing. And real legal life is very different from that. And that was obviously glamorized and whatever for television. I think real life lawyers who've been really inspirational, anyone who knows me knows I just adore Lady Hale.
Yep.
I think she's been amazing what she's achieved as a woman in law. I was fortunate enough to meet her when we had the 100 years of women in law celebrations down at the Law Society in London. She spoke. She was really, really inspirational, really down to earth. And, her success belies her. Everybody knows Lady Hale's name. And I recently found out about a lawyer called Nancy Hollander. And I don't know if anybody has seen it yet, but there's a film, I don't know if it's on Netflix yet, but it's certainly on Amazon Prime, called The Mauritanian. And it's about Mohamedou Slahi. And he was imprisoned following the wake of the 9/11 terror attacks. And he was imprisoned in Guantanamo Bay. I think he was there for 16 or 14 years without charge. Nancy Hollander was his lawyer. And she was from a firm, I think in Albuquerque in New Mexico. She's a door tenant of a chambers in London as well. She specialises in criminal law, and she does all sorts of international law as well. And she fought for this guy, Mohamedou Slahi, for 11 years pro bono for his release from detention. And the film follows that, and it's a true story. It's based on his memoirs, which he wrote and published while still being held as a prisoner at Guantanamo Bay. So she's only a recent lawyer that I've become aware of, but she's obviously done amazing things pro bono. And we do a lot of pro bono work at MSB. We do a lot of pro bono clinics. Obviously nothing on par with what Nancy Hollander's done, but I think every bit of pro bono work that you do helps somebody in some small way, and that's really important.
Yeah, no, excellent. And for you, Darren, any inspirations?
Inspirations from TV. I think I've watched all the sort of stuff that's been on about lawyers, from Perry Mason and Petrocelli, which you'd have to be quite old to remember, to This Life and Ally McBeal. I don't think I've watched LA Law, but I think I've watched most of them. But again, you're more inspired, I think, by real life lawyers. And interestingly, Michael Mansfield QC is one of the lawyers that I've read a lot about. I've read his books. He's a criminal barrister. I'm a commercial property lawyer, but just his commitment to truth and integrity and doing the right thing. And I think ultimately, no matter what area of law we practice, that's what we want. That's what we believe in. We believe in the rule of law. We believe in the justice system.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, brilliant. So, well, that ends the podcast. I'd like to say thank you to you both for taking the time out to come and join me.
Thank you, Tom.
It's been really insightful. Yeah, no, it's been great. So, yeah
thanks very much for inviting us, Tom.
You're welcome.